Okay, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Administration and Finance Committee meeting on November the 5th, 2024. I'll now call on Rianne Kassar, Committee Clerk, to conduct the roll call. Rianne.
Thank you. Regional Chair Redmond.
Present.
Councillor Craig.
Present.
Regrets from Councillor Deutschman. Councillor Erb. Councillor Foxton.
Present.
Chair Harris. Councillor Hunick. Councillor James.
Present.
Regrets from Councillor Liggett. Councillor McCabe. Councillor Nowak. Councillor Salonen. Councillor Shantz.
Present.
Councillor Urbanovic. Councillor Williams.
Present.
And Councillor Wolf.
Present.
Thank you.
I would like to acknowledge that the land on which we gather today is the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and Chinantan peoples. We acknowledge the enduring presence of the Indigenous people with whom we share this land today, their achievements, and their contributions to our community. Are there any declarations of pecuniary interest? We will now consider a motion to reconvene into open session. Do we have a mover and a seconder to consider the motion? Moved by Councillor Fox and seconded by Councillor McCabe. Head over to that e-scribe for a yes and no. Okay, that is carried. There are no presentations. There are no delegations. Please note there are no items under the consent agenda, so we'll move right into the regular agenda. And with that, I'll call on Nora MSD, Lobbyist Registry and Program Policy Advisor, to provide a presentation. We'll allow for questions of staff following that presentation. Nora.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just have my slides. Perfect. Good afternoon. My name is Nora M. Tassali, and I'm a Policy and Program Advisor here at the Region of Waterloo. And I'm delighted to speak with you today about the Lobbyist Registry Program and present to you both its bylaw and its code of conduct. I would also like to introduce John Pappas from Airden Burles LLP, who is joining us virtually and has worked closely with our Lobbyist Registrar throughout the development of our bylaw and our code of conduct. Next slide. Before diving into the program itself, I would like to present the following timeline, which outlines the number of times the Lobbyist Registry was presented to Council, along with the report number for reference. First, on May 10th, 2022, the program was presented to Council for informational purposes to provide background on the registry. It was carried for staff to develop a Lobbyist Registry with a code of conduct and a bylaw alongside an online registry. It was also carried for staff to develop the registry in consultation with the area municipalities through public engagement. 1 year later, on June 6, 2023, the Lobbyist Registry was brought forward to consider deferring the program to the 2024 plan and budget. This was carried as well. This report also provided further information on the purpose of the registry for the region, its financial implications, and our plans to engage with our community and our stakeholders. During the November 29th, 2023 meeting for the 2024 plan and budget, Council approved the inclusion of the service expansion for the region's Lobbyist Registry in the 2024 budget. Today, the Lobbyist Registry is brought forward once again to recommend the approval of its bylaw and its code of conduct. Next slide. Now, a common question that people ask is, what is lobbying? At its core, lobbying involves any effort to communicate with a public office holder by an individual who is either paid or represents a business or financial interest. Now, lobbying can happen at any time, whether through a formal meeting, via email, letter, social media, or dialogue. The primary aim of a lobbyist is to influence legislative action. This influence could pertain to various activities, including the development, introduction, passage, defeat, amendment, or repeal of our bylaws, motions, resolutions, or any other significant decision that can be made before our council. Next slide. Now, another concept that tends to be brought up is whether a certain scenario is considered lobbying or if it's considered advocacy. It is really important to note that all types of lobbying is advocacy, but not all types of advocacy is lobbying. So let's try to break this down further. Advocacy encompasses a wide range of activities designed to influence public opinion and public policy. For instance, an individual or group meets with council to explain how a particular issue is affecting our community or a particular group. The goal of advocacy here is to raise awareness and bring social and political change where council can support their cause, their ideas, or any of their concerns. On the other hand, we have lobbying. Lobbying is a form of advocacy that attempts to influence a specific type of legislation. You can see it as more of a targeted and focused approach. For instance, if an organization speaks to a few councillors, influencing them to vote against the amendment of a specific piece of legislation that can financially benefit them. This is where advocacy crosses the line to lobbying and where the lobbyist registry will come into play. Next slide. The lobbyist registry that we are implementing is here and designed to bring increased transparency and accountability to the interactions between lobbyists and public officials within the region of Waterloo. By making these interactions publicly accessible, we aim to foster greater trust, accountability, and confidence in our governmental processes. The transparency of the registry will allow the public to be informed about who is lobbying, the objectives of their lobbying efforts, and their interactions with our public officials. Next slide. As mentioned, the lobbyist registry is a tool designed to increase transparency and accountability surrounding lobbying activities happening here in the region. This encourages open and accountable governance between both the lobbyist and the public office holder, while at the same time being able to remove this negative image of lobbying happening behind closed doors. It is important to highlight that the lobbyist registry is not designed to prevent or limit communication with our constituents, rather that the communication between both should continue to be encouraged. Next slide. Currently, 11 municipalities in Ontario have established lobbyist registries. City of Guelph actually launched their registry in October of this year. The region has engaged with most of these municipalities to gather insights on their programs, and a common theme emerged from these discussions. All municipalities, regardless of their size or the volume of lobbying activities, recognize significant benefits from implementing a registry. They reported that the registries enhance transparency and accountability, fostering a culture of openness in lobbying practices. Also, by taking this step, it contributed to building greater trust between local governments and their communities. Next slide. Now, I will break down the pillars, as I like to call it, of the lobbyist registry outlined in this chart. First, we have our bylaw and code of conduct. In this block, I summarize what the bylaw will be covering. I would like to first preface that the bylaw only applies to regional council and staff at this time. Also, it does not include any council or staff from the area municipalities. Furthermore, our bylaw aligns with the bylaw and code of conducts that have been established in the other 11 municipalities, as well as Ontario's Lobbyists Registration Act. Our bylaw applies to members of council, officers and employees of the region, and members of local boards or committees established by council. It includes a comprehensive list of exemptions for both individuals and activities, helping the public understand whether their actions qualify as lobbying before registering. Additionally, it outlines the responsibilities of the public office holder, the regional clerk, and the lobbyist registrar. Section 9 details the penalties for lobbyists who violate the bylaw, and I would also like to preface that these penalties will take effect 6 months after the launch date to ensure that our community is well informed and educated about the registry. Lastly, the Code of Conduct specifies the standards of behavior that lobbyists must uphold. The second pillar is our lobbyist registrar. We have our lobbyist registrar, who is John Mascarin from Airden Burles LLP. The registrar is responsible for all inquiries regarding complaints or acts of disobedience with the bylaw and code of conduct, and is a core resource in answering any questions or concerns the region may receive regarding a lobbyist or their activity. Our third pillar is our software. We have our software program, which is by JSAS. JSAS is a cost-effective Canadian software company located in Mississauga, who develops user-friendly, secure, and accessible lobbyist registries for municipalities. Through this system, lobbyists will be required to register and log their interactions with public officials, detail the purpose and objectives of their interactions, and identify the interests that they represent. We have worked very closely with the region's IT and information management and privacy team to ensure that the software aligns with the region's standards, protections, and expectations. Our fourth pillar is a critical aspect of this project, and it is our comprehensive engagement and education strategy. We are committed to working closely with both internal and external stakeholders to ensure effective implementation and adoption of this registry. Our collaboration includes various teams within the region, such as information management and privacy, procurement, IT, legal, communications, and the READY team. We have and will continue to consult and collaborate with the region's Reconciliation, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion team, also known as the READY team, to provide insight and recommendations on the development of the registry. We have worked together and engaged in discussions surrounding our bylaw and code of conduct, as well as education opportunities for Indigenous and equity-deserving groups in the region regarding the implementation of the registry. As mentioned previously, we have met with multiple municipalities that have implemented lobbyist registries to gain insight into their processes, their challenges, and lessons that they learned during the implementation of their own registries. This was really a positive engagement strategy and has allowed the region to build valuable relationships as well as understand best practices that can inform our own approach. We're really excited to announce and introduce the Lobbyist Registry as a key step towards enhancing transparency and accountability in regional governance. This new process supports engagement. It doesn't restrict it. Community members will continue to have clear, open access to councillors, the regional chair, and staff as always. Starting in December, the region will launch a comprehensive information campaign that will raise public awareness of the registry's functionality, address common questions, and guide residents on how to engage. This campaign will involve digital and printed material, FAQs, and other helpful resources for ease of use for both council, staff, and lobbyists. We intend to make it simple and straightforward for anyone engaging with public office holders to access, navigate, and use the registry effectively. Our last pillars are area municipalities. Throughout the implementation process of the Lobbyist Registry, the region has been and will continue to engage with all 7 area municipalities. The region hosted a virtual information session with the area municipality clerks on September 18th of this year, providing information regarding the Lobbyist Registry, its purpose, and resources we are using to deliver this program. Furthermore, throughout the information session, we were able to showcase that the region is not here to force any municipality to implement a registry on the region's terms or timelines, but rather the region is open to supporting the area municipalities if they choose to implement a registry. Such support includes providing communication materials, software training, writing up the bylaw and code of conduct, host training sessions, and more. We shared that ensuring a consistent approach with the registry throughout all area municipalities will be able to share a message to our communities to support transparency and accountability surrounding lobbying activities. However, at the end of the day, it is up to the area municipalities to make the final call and decision on how they want to implement a registry based on their own needs, priorities, and their own budget. During the information session, the clerks of the area municipalities expressed interest in staying engaged through the region's implementation of the Lobbyist Registry, and we agreed on scheduling another information session after the launch. Although they have opted to delay implementation for now, the clerks remain interested in collaborating with the region on the registry's progress, ensuring that they are prepared for future opportunities. Next slide. Once the Lobbyist Registry and bylaws are approved, here are the next steps we'll be taking. This month, we will begin to inform and train staff on the registry and distribute communications via our Engage Waterloo Region page. In December, we will schedule information sessions for our community and distribute communication materials to council and staff to prepare for our launch. By January, we will launch our lobbyist registry and its websites, and we will be implementing our 6-month grace period for penalties. In March, we will host another information session with all area municipality clerks to provide an update on the registry. By June, the 6-month grace period will come to an end, and the enforcement of penalties will begin. Next slide. I want to take a minute to thank you all for listening to my presentation. To conclude, the approval of the Lobbyist Registry's bylaw and code of conduct will be able to enhance transparency and accountability around lobbying activities happening here at the region, allowing the public to have access to information on the interactions and efforts lobbyists are making for our region. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. M. Tasali. I've got questions. Councillor Huinik.
Thank you, Chair Harris. Thank you for the excellent report and presentation. I am in favor of implementing a lobbyist registry eventually. I'm just struggling with whether 2025 is the year in which it is best to do that. Can you speak to the tax impact for this implementation in 2025?
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor Huinik.
Sure.
So based on the budget that came out for the 2024 budget, it was allocated to have a service expansion of the lobbyist registry in regards to our software, as well as hiring a full-time employee and the budget surrounding the lobbyist registrar. However, if the regional clerk is on the line, I'd be happy to pass over the question to him as well.
I think what I'm gathering from what you've already stated is that it's already in the budget. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is correct.
Perfect. That's really great to know. And then you mentioned penalties wouldn't come into effect until June 2025. Just to clarify for the public and the community, those are not monetary penalties for them, correct?
Through the chair, that is correct. Those are not monetary penalties.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Okay, Councillor Wolf.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I guess my question was sort of answered, but I was wondering how much this is going to cost. And I guess other than saying it's in the budget, I don't know how much it is, since we're looking for savings.
Yeah, sorry, Chair Harris. I can take this, or if Wayne wants to also add to it. I believe the total budget for the software was approximately $10,000, which was approved in the 2024 budget, along with the 1 FTE for the policy advisor as well, which was also approved in the 2024 budget. So the service expansion request, I don't know, Wayne, if you want to add to that, but it would be just the ongoing FTE cost year over year, which isn't just assigned to the lobbyist registry program itself, but is there as a program advisor and support mechanism for that program.
And the cost of that? It's the cost of a full-time person, is what you're saying?
Correct.
And plus the program. And we're offering the municipalities, if they want to do it, that we would pay for theirs. Is that what I'm hearing? We would just provide them information?
Yeah, sorry, through you, Chair. We wouldn't be paying for the municipalities to be to do the program, but we would provide Nora's support if they required it to do whatever it is that they were looking. I don't know how that would work out. We haven't gotten that far with the area municipalities, and at this point, like Nora had mentioned in her presentation, they're not interested in moving forward with it at this point in time. But down the road, if they had questions or needed some advice or support, Nora would be able to provide that for them.
And do we know approximately how many lobbyists you would expect to register? in 2025?
Nor did you get any information on that?
Through the chair, since there hasn't been any public registrations on the amount of lobbying activities that are happening, it is difficult to give a number right now on how many lobbyists will be registering, but definitely as the region is continuing to increase, and it's mentioned with conversations with multiple councillors as well, there are those interactions happening with lobbyists, but I cannot provide a specific number since I don't have access to that information as of right now.
And in terms of penalties, you said you've got a 6-month leeway. Who is penalized? Like if someone spoke to me and I didn't think they were a lobbyist or didn't recognize that, is it my responsibility? Am I the one in error? Or is it the person who's the so-called lobbyist who didn't register and spoke to me? Where's the error, or who's responsible? Or are both responsible?
Through the chair, thank you so much for your question. So the lobbyist will be responsible. The onus is really on them. That is why we're really pushing the education and engagement strategy, not only once the bylaw and code of conduct gets approved, but during that 6-month period to ensure that our community is aware of that, especially lobbyists are aware of this. But the onus is really on them, not on you or the councillors or our staff.
Thank you.
Thank you. Chair Redmond.
Thank you, Chair Harris. Councillor Wolf actually asked one of the questions I wanted because I think that it's always a worry and the onus is really on the lobbyists. I would have to tell you, I'm happy to move this recommendation. I think this is something that is best practice, and I know as we grow to 1 million people in the region, irrespective of whether area municipalities decide they're going to get on board, I think this is really important. I've had developers from Toronto phone and say, listen, do you have one of those stupid lobbyist registries? And I don't think every lobbyist thinks that way, but it really made them guarded in sort of how they approached me and what they talked about. So I think that it is a really good best practice, and I would be happy to move it. And Nora, thank you for all the education sessions that you did with all of us so that we had a better understanding.
Councillor Erb.
I'm happy to second it, but what I wanted to say is thanks for today, but piggyback on what Chair Redmond just said, thanks very much for the educational sessions that you did a month or however long ago. I thought they were very, very helpful, very, very well informed, and so thanks for doing that.
Okay, colleagues, I don't see any others that have questions. Nora, thank you for your presentation, and Clerk Short for being available to answer some questions. So colleagues, I believe we've got a mover in Chair Redmond, seconded by Councillor Erb. So over to eScribe for our vote, please. Okay, colleagues, and that is carried. Next, we'll call on our Chief Financial Officer, Wayne Steffler, that will speak to the next report, our plan and financial update. Mr. Steffler.
Thank you, Chair Harris. So the council report in front of you, it's showing that the region is on track to achieve a modest surplus of about 4.3 million. It's approximately 0.9% of the property tax levy allocated for regional services. Looking at the user rates, preliminary projections indicate a surplus for both water and wastewater services. We're seeing an estimated 1.8 million surplus for water and 7.1 million for wastewater. And the wastewater is larger due mostly to unusual seasonal weather patterns causing increased flows. Looking at our capital program in 24, it has a total budget of 669 million. Progress is steady. Current spending estimates suggest about 74% of our budget will be used by the end of the year. Our staff have also reviewed the progress of specific projects in the 24-33 capital program. Based on their findings, are recommending some adjustments. You can see those details in Appendix D of the report. Lastly, a final report on the 24 year-end results will be available in early 2025. Any year-end surpluses or shortfalls will be allocated to our reserves following council policy, unless council decides otherwise. And one more note, there was a recent update to that Appendix D, which added a couple technology projects at the bottom. And we can, happy to take any questions regarding the report. And that covers my overview. Thank you.
And we've got a question, Councillor Hunick.
I hope that my comment is with respect to the correct report. Is this the Q3 report? Commissioner Stifler. Okay, awesome. So I want to draw your attention to two sentences, which I'm not sure if you read or understand. The accessible taxi incentive program indicates that the region has successfully upped the count of accessible taxis from 17 to 25, which is a huge success of the last 2 years. It has greatly increased service levels, so I think that's worth celebrating. However, I want to draw your attention also to a related concern, which is that GRT staff have recently notified me that due to the push toward smaller vehicles in the industry, some of the vehicles that we've helped to purchase can't actually accommodate folks with larger mobility devices. So that's really unfortunate, and I don't think we could have known that much earlier. But I bring this to your attention because the adaptation for bigger mobility devices costs more money. So it's very possible that with respect to the 2025 budget conversation, I will bring this to your attention again and may need to put more money in that fund so that we can purchase vehicles that accommodate all people. Thank you.
Through you, Chair, and Councillor Hunick, thank you. And I think what we're seeing is GRT, as Council knows, uses a combination of mobility plus vehicles which are owned by the region as well as accessible taxis. So we're likely kind of the first point of noticing this one. We spoke earlier today.
You're
about
also reputable staff.
Yeah, fantastic staff. Thank you. You know, we spoke this morning about a trend towards larger mobility devices. So we are absolutely seeing this in taxi. We're also seeing this challenges in some of our mobility plus vehicles, just with turning radius and others. So, Councillor Hunick, I think you know we're committed to keep going on this one through both mobility plus and taxi. So I'm glad my staff is identifying the challenge, and we'll work together.
Thank you. And just to alleviate staff's feeling of responsibility in this regard, the industry push towards larger mobility devices doesn't match up with the car industry push towards smaller vehicles that save the environment. So there's a bit of a push and pull there, but we have solutions. They just cost more money. Thanks.
I believe Matthew would like to comment here on this topic as well.
Thank you, Chair. I see you were trying to escape my usual commentary on Appendix A that talks about the plan part of the work. I think we're, you know, as staff, the financials are important, but we're really excited about the progress that has happened on our annual business plan. The region has made progress on each of the Growing with Care strategic priority areas by working collaboratively on all the annual initiatives, whether they're with our municipal partners, with the community that we work with. And during this quarter, the region's ability to deliver has continued in a context of unprecedented community growth, strong and increasing reliance on regional services, with still kind of, you know, the usual limited resources and complex social, political, and technological challenges that we're all facing today. So Appendix A provides a summary of the advances of the annual business plan for the third quarter, which I'd like to share just a few highlights with you now. On the Homes for All priority area, we advanced progress by investing in new housing developments, incentives, and collaborations to support affordable housing and upstream solutions. This includes things like using existing region-owned land to develop affordable housing at 30 Loris Avenue in Cambridge. It includes advancing on and prioritizing the Plan 10 chronic homelessness based on all the co-creator input and based on the prioritization and focusing on what outcomes we're trying to drive, as well as the RFP evaluation process for the housing stability system policy frameworks. It also includes developing partnerships and programming around employment services to make them more accessible, meaningful, and impactful for the community, in particular for equity-deserving groups, and as part of the transformation of employment services that the province has been leading. In terms of climate-aligned growth, the region has continued to make advances on public and active transportation, reducing regional greenhouse gas emissions and energy consumption, and protecting our natural resources. This includes reducing an estimated 700 tons of greenhouse gas emissions from GRT's fleet annually by making Route 7 a dedicated electric route this fall. Electric buses are also planned in the future to support Route 91, the late night loop that we've talked about earlier this year. Ensuring the region has a sustainable drinking water supply has also been a priority through kicking off the update to the region's water supply strategy and receiving $2.9 million from the provincial government to build a new well house in Cambridge. In terms of equitable services and opportunities, some of the key advances included opening a new public health clinic at 20 Weber Street in Kitchener to support the health and well-being of residents, and providing nearly $3 million in funding for upstream initiatives that address community priorities set in the Community Safety and Well-being Plan. Finally, the region worked to become and to continue to be a more resilient and future-ready organization by investing in new approaches and partnerships to ensure employees have the support and the tools that they need to transform services and better serve the community. Over the last quarter, some highlights included offering targeted training and education on difficult topics such as trauma-informed care and foundations of diversity, equity, and inclusion. It also included exploring new approaches to project management that will enhance the effective and efficient delivery of our capital projects. So while our current context, including increasing community need and strained financial resources, continues to impact our ability to implement our strategic plan, the community collaborations, the partnerships that we drive, innovative solutions, and our dedicated and talented team of staff continue to be our source of strength and path forward during these challenging times. Thank you.
Councillor Foxton.
Thank you, Chair. Through you, Matthew, you just said that we were going to electric vehicles. I thought we decided on hybrids.
Through the chair, we have a pilot that's ongoing, so we've allocated those to Route 7. So we're using all the buses that we've already ordered and allocating them to the different routes, and it's making a difference on our GHG emissions.
Thank you.
Thank you both for those presentations and comments. I don't have any other questions, and we do have a recommendation before us on A and B. I would like to ask for a mover and a seconder, Councillor Wolf, and seconded by Councillor James. So colleagues, if you can head over to eScribe, we'll wrap that up. There are two. Yeah. Okay, and that's carried, colleagues. We are receiving the Council Committee tracking list for information. Is there any other business? Okay, the next meeting will be on December the 3rd, 2024. We'll now start a vote to adjourn the meeting, moved by Councillor Erb, seconded by Councillor Foxton. And we'll head back over to eScribe to wrap this up. That's carried, colleagues.